While authorities knew and, in fact, had been tracking at least one of the attackers, reaction from retired CIA operations officer Sam Faddis and cybersecurity expert Paul Viollis. Paul, do you on that aspect, that once again we were tracking the guy who would be behind the attacks? It's happened again and again and again in that country, in our country. Why does this keep happening?
And quite frankly, we're going to continue to see this happening. I'm sure Sam will agree with that as well. We have far more people to track than we have bodies to track them. And there's nothing more important to us on the preemptive side than gathering intelligence. But if we don't have enough people in order to do that, we're going to have to turn more towards technology and artificial intelligence in order for us to really get where we have to be to get ahead of the curve and start playing offense on this instead of defense.
You know, Sam, when you hear this sort of thing and the intelligence that we get, now obviously there's chatter, there's their trips and where they go, and there are limits in a free society how long you can hold somebody or even question somebody. But that is the bane of a free society, isn't it?
Look, there's no question that collecting intelligence in a free society is difficult. It's also not impossible. It is doable. It's a matter of having the political will and requiring that collection to take place. I'm kind of an old shoe leather guy, so I'm not opposed to technology, but bottom line is we need human sources ultimately to tell us what's going to happen.
Then, Sam, what do you think of these ideas that have been bandied about in Britain where they might ban burqas, they would strip people of citizenship on multiple questioning, if in doubt they throw you out, detain you longer for questioning, maybe not put a time limit on it, 6 months to a year. This type of stuff that's come up, including banning extremist talk, language, provocative, back and forths on social websites, Facebook, what have you. What do you make of all that?
I think we have to become more preemptive, and I'm certainly for having a much better idea of who we're allowing into the country. I think there's also a point here where we need to be really careful and avoid taking actions which impact the broader community when in fact the broader Muslim community is not involved in these events. And I think intelligence is the key to that. Knowing who is out there, who is getting ready to act in advance is the key, not trying to take action against an entire community.
Nevertheless, Paul, it comes at a time when we're learning that that community wasn't necessarily sheltering one of the attackers, but wasn't passing along information that could have been helpful. Now, others have been arguing that community didn't know what was going on. Neighbors were not quite familiar with what was going on. But piecing together what little we do know, some were, and some didn't relay that. What do you make of that? How should we address that, let alone the Brits ourselves as well?
I think the key part here, Neil, is for us to remember that we absolutely have to cut off the supply chain of knowledge that ISIS and other Islamic radicalists are using to perpetrate acts of violence against the global community. And that specifically is the internet and social media. We are not doing a good job at policing the internet. In fact, we're failing there. And we're allowing them to communicate information to recruit, train, and deploy tactical measures against us. And we're going to have to raise our sleeves up here and really start to do the right thing to protect the American people as well as the global community. Kudos to Prime Minister May for saying that she needs tougher cyber controls. We need to start hearing that here, and we need to also understand, you and I have talked about this before, we don't have this great constitutional right to privacy. We know that they're using the internet to perpetrate acts of violence against us. We need to go against that. We need to be much stronger with that if we're going to protect people here at home. End of story.
Sam, Osama bin Laden's son, who seems to have reclaimed his father's leadership role in al-Qaeda, has said sort of a missive out to revolutionaries, as he likes to call them, have complete freedom and flexibility and get your hands on anything. I'm paraphrasing here. To do what you can do, knives, weapons of any sort. This latest attack was crude but very effective in Britain, as was the one prior. What are we to learn from that? If you're at the CIA, what are you doing to address that?
Well, what we've learned is that these guys are constantly evolving. This is not a static contest. I would agree with everything that was just said. We're getting our clocks cleaned when it comes to the internet and the use of social media to recruit. And we have to adapt to that, and we have to be much more forward-leaning and much more aggressive in identifying folks that are out there on the internet and in the virtual world, if you will, and acting against them before they kill people.
All right, guys, I want to thank you both very, very much.